Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we are here and it's the first racing debrief of 2024. We've had a very long break of about a month and a half from this series, but we're here, we're back. So if you guys missed the racing debrief in 2023, basically it's where I weekly discuss the events that take place in NASCAR races and F1 races. And we do occasionally have IndyCar races. It was one that I happen to watch for a weekend. Not that I actively watch it, but there are a few times throughout the year that I do. So typically we'll discuss whatever happened in a NASCAR race. So this is pretty much a weekly series because there's NASCAR race pretty much every week. In the week that there's F1, we'll talk about that. But we're trying something a little different here. Of course, we are a week away from the Busch Clash at the LA Coliseum. So I figured it's a good time to go in to give a preview of what I think will happen in the season, and also some big changes that took place throughout the off-season. So, got my notes on my phone here. Gotta pull it up. There's a lot to remember. So, first of all, we have the notable schedule changes. I believe we did a video talking about the schedule. Don't mind the cat at the door. Jax just wants to get in here and be obnoxious. But he's not allowed in this room because he'll get into everything. So, notable changes. Of course, we have Atlanta as the second race of the season, right after Daytona. So you got two, whatever they call those tracks now, drafting tracks. You got super speedways and then Atlanta, which is its own thing. So, two of those races back to back definitely starts the race off chaotic. I think it is a good move though to have Atlanta second. Kind of gets that carryover from Daytona. A lot of people watch NASCAR races and expect to see packs of cars crashing in a pile. And you get that at Daytona and you get that at Atlanta, but that's not the normal NASCAR occurrence. If you're a viewer of just Daytona and you watch the next week and the race in California and they'll spread out, you're like, Brett, what am I watching? So, having that transition from one track to another that's the same style, I think can maybe help carry over some viewership. And I think that that's going to just create some chaos at the beginning of the season. Of course, Daytona and Atlanta are the types of tracks that more drivers are in contention to win, so having that back-to-back will be interesting for some of the guys that maybe aren't going to go out and win in Kansas or win Bristol or something like that. Next up, we have Iowa, which has joined the NASCAR schedule. Of course, Iowa was a track that the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series raced at, but Cup never raced there. Iowa kind of fell off their schedules when you had the COVID changes the schedule and it fell off and they never went back. So after 2020, it got cut that year. Didn't go 21 or 22 or 23 for Xfinity. So that type of thing, or that type of track, will be very interesting to see what happens. Of course, it is a short track. And going back to a place like that Cup's never raced at, but you have had Xfinity races, I think will be kind of cool. So yeah, there's that. Next change, the Indy road course is gone, and we're back to the oval at Indianapolis. It'll be interesting to see how the next-gen car performs. I kind of like the road course at Indy, I'm going to be honest, but I'm a fan of the road courses. But if they do an alternating schedule, I think will be kind of cool. But seeing how the next-gen does at Indy Oval will be interesting. Of course, that's the more historic track. That's one of the most historic tracks in the world, so makes sense to race on the oval. Next up, there will be a 2-week summer break, so just keep that in mind when you are watching. Normally, we don't have a long summer break. Normally, there's a week off, typically the transition from Fox to NBC, but not now. You're going to have 2 weeks off during the NBC portion of the schedule. I believe it's August, because there will be the Summer Olympics in Paris. NBC is the broadcaster for it, so they send everything, all their focus to that, which makes sense. So NASCAR does have a break for that. And that also does change the way the schedule is a little bit. Daytona's moved from the last races of the regular season to the race before. Darlington's the cutoff race. I'm assuming that's a 1-year thing because putting that Daytona race at a meaningless, or not meaningless, but kind of a random date isn't really what you expect for a Daytona in the summer. Of course, it was always 4th of July. Then they moved to the cutoff race in 2020, so that's kind of been a spot. So I wouldn't expect it to just stay the race before the cutoff after the season. The last schedule change is we have Atlanta and Watkins Glen in the playoffs in the first round. So the first round is going to be pure chaos with a road course and Atlanta. I forgot what else is there. Maybe it might be Kansas or something like that. But that first round is always chaotic in the playoffs. So when you add in chaotic tracks like Atlanta and a little bit more of a wild card like Watkins Glen, it's not the same wild card, but it still is a little bit more of a wild card. It's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out. And the other notable change, of course, is the last year for the current broadcast deal. So just keep that in mind. Next year we'll have a completely different broadcast deal, which is going to be very easy for the older viewers of NASCAR to understand. That is not true. Just seeing how much there was a struggle for older fans of football to figure out how to watch the playoff game on Peacock, which was the Chiefs and Dolphins. Seeing how that was difficult, I'm sure figuring out the NASCAR schedules when they switch to having races on Prime and whatever, practice sessions on Prime, it's going to be good in 2025. But right now, we're focused on 2024. Other notable changes to the season, or things you'll notice, the Toyotas and the Fords have new designs. Essentially, the front nose of them is the main part that's redesigned. I think they both look really, really cool. I'm a fan of both of the designs, so looking forward to seeing those and getting die-cast of both of those cars as well. And of course, the short track package, they've worked on fixing the short tracks and the road courses. Those were the best tracks that NASCAR had. Of course, the super speedways, Daytona and Talladega, always are amazing, or typically are amazing. Shouldn't say always. Typically are amazing, but the short tracks and road courses, they got really good, especially with the 6th gen. That car was killing it there, and the mile and a half were bad. So NASCAR changed the car to make it better for short track or road courses, and instead they killed it on road courses and short tracks. So it's really good on mile and a half now, but it's kind of trash on the short tracks. Again, there's more issues than what they're focused on. Again, the main thing is the tire size and the power that the cars have, but NASCAR continues to focus on aerodynamics for some reason. Even though everybody, drivers, analysts, even fans, can know this is what's wrong, this is what you should fix, they continue to do other things. But they're making minimal gains, but there are some gains nonetheless. So short tracks and road courses will have less diffuser strakes on the car, so that will hopefully take away some downforce, and we have a slightly taller spoiler for some reason. And I'm assuming Goodyear's been working on tires. The article I was reading there talking about Goodyear working on tires, so hopefully they'll have maybe a tire that doesn't last as long, but there's that. Driver moves, of course. Got to talk about driver moves. Josh Berry replacing Kevin Harvick, who retired, and Noah Gragson replacing Eric Almirola, who retired. So Stewart-Haas had 2 retirements. Of course, their greatest driver ever was Kevin Harvick, and then Eric Almirola, who brought some sponsorship to the team. So losing both of those, thing came out the other day of the sponsorships that Stewart-Haas lost. They had like 8 that they lost, and most of them were from those 2 drivers. Kevin Harvick had like 5. Eric Almirola had 2. So 7 of their 8 sponsors that they lost during the offseason were from those 2 drivers. So it'll be interesting to sort of see what happens. But those 2 drivers filling in those seats now. So Josh Berry in the 4 car, that'll be interesting. I don't expect the team to do as well, Stewart-Haas in general. I think if you look at their performance from 2023 and you take out Kevin Harvick from that equation, it was quite terrible. So now you have a season where you take out Kevin Harvick and you put a rookie in there. Yeah, it'll be interesting. The 42 car, John Hunter Nemechek's in that. Of course, Legacy Motor Club switching to Toyota. So that way they can probably get a little bit more performance because they'll be in the Toyota team. Of course, Jogo's racing 2311 already there. So when you see a manufacturer go to 8 cars, I think that'd be beneficial to be 7th and 8th in Toyota compared to being whatever 14th and 15th or whatever they were at Chevy. So I think being the focus more there, I think will be beneficial for 2311. John Hunter Nemechek did pretty well in Xfinity in 2023, so we'll see how he does in Cup. Spire, they have Carson Hocevar in the 77. They're adding a third car with the 71 for Zane Smith, so we'll see some guys that were full-time on the trucks last year, both jumping up to Cup. Of course, Carson Hocevar did a few races, filling in the 42 car last year for Legacy, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Zane Smith, we'll see how he does as well in the Cup Series. Spire's putting a lot of money into becoming a better team, so we'll see how that all works out. Of course, they bought KBM in the Truck Series, so they have a new building. They're expanding their trucks, doing a little bit of Xfinity, doing a third car in the Cup Series. So we'll see if all that money for Spire is going to really benefit for them. The last changes, AJ Allmendinger going back to Xfinity Series, so he kind of jumped up to Cup, but it didn't really seem like a move he wanted to do. I think that Xfinity worked well for him. Of course, he retired from racing in general, Cup racing, NASCAR, whatever you want to say, he retired from. Then Kaulig got him to do a few races in Xfinity, part-time, got him to go full-time, then going back to Cup. I think that AJ Allmendinger probably didn't want to do it. I mean, there was a lot of things coming out that he'd rather do Xfinity. It's 3 less races. Cars probably more fun to drive. So, AJ Allmendinger back in Xfinity full-time, as he was in 2022. So, see what happens there. He did pretty well that year. He was, basically, it was between him, Ty Gibbs, and Noah Gragson for that championship. So, and AJ Allmendinger was in the championship fight, I think, in 21. So, maybe 2020. So, he's been in the championship fight pretty much every year. So, we'll see what he can do this year. And the last thing, we don't really talk about the part-time cars that much, but the 60 car, Roush is doing their own kind of third car thing. So they're doing kind of like Trackhouse has with Project 91, and they're doing what 2311 has with the 67 car, where they have part-time, kind of get some of the drivers in there. So now we're going to see a Ford team have it, so we'll have all 3 manufacturers with that. It's be interesting to see who they run. Of course, David Reagan's doing Daytona 500. Where else do they run the 60 car? That'll be interesting to see. So, now let's get into the preview of the playoffs. We have my prediction on who's going to get in on wins and who's going to get in on points, who's going to be the championship for, and who's going to win the championship. So, first up, in 2023, we had 13 drivers win their way into the playoffs, of course, of the 16 spots. So, Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick, and Bubba Wallace were the 3 that made it in without a win. So, of course, Kevin Hart's retiring, so that's one spot that will be different. Or he retired, I should say at this point. So, who else will make the playoffs? So, based on wins, I'm going to say Ross Chastain, Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski. I think he does get a win finally. He's been close. Roush has been getting better as a team. Of course, since he went there, the team became RFK. They've definitely done better. Of course, Chris Buescher got, 3 wins? So, Chris Buescher's gotten 4 total wins since Brad Keselowski's went there. I think Brad Keselowski himself will get a win. Kyle Busch, he wins every year. Don't know why he wouldn't this year. Chase Elliott, I think will get a win, unfortunately. I do think he does get a win, though. Where? I'm not sure, but I was very surprised, honestly, that he went winless in the season. Last year, I would have thought that he would have got one somewhere. But having winning, of course, so that would be the first driver on this list as well that I have making the playoffs in 2023 or 2024 that didn't in 2023. We have Denny Hamlin, winning a race. Ryan Blaney, 2023 champion. We have Chris Buescher. Of course, we talked about him when we mentioned Brad Keselowski. Martin Truex Jr. He's got some tracks he's very good at. Dover, Sonoma, New Hampshire. All tracks that he won at last year. I think those are ones that he can pull up and do very well at again this year. We got Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, and Ty Gibbs. Those are drivers that I have winning. Don't really think there's any surprises. Ty Gibbs, of course, almost made the playoffs in 2023. He was, I believe, 18th in points. I think Chase Elliott passed him at the end of the season. But going up to the playoffs, he was 17th. A few weeks he was in. So some of the performances, like you've seen at Bristol, later in the season he was getting better. And I think that being in a Gibbs car, there's no reason why Ty Gibbs wouldn't get a win in 2024. And Ty Gibbs is also my favorite driver now for this time. First time I've ever had my favorite NASCAR driver be younger than me, which is weird. It's interesting, I guess. The drivers that I've been my favorite drivers, Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick. I was fans of them since I was little. Since I remember watching racing. So, it's interesting having to pick a new driver completely just based on who you like as a driver from what they do on the track instead of I like the paint scheme when I was 2. But either way, I do think that Ty Gibbs gets a win somewhere. New Hampshire, please. Win New Hampshire. That's what I want to see. I want to see Ty Gibbs win New Hampshire because I'll be there. All right. Drivers getting on points. I think Alex Bowman gets in on points. And I think Bubba Wallace gets in on points. So that means that drivers that made it last year, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, and of course Kevin Harvick, are the 3 that we're swapping out. Of course, Kevin Harvick retired, so he doesn't have a chance to make the playoffs. But the other 2, Ricky Stenhouse and Michael McDowell, I'm never going to put him in the playoffs. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them did, but I'm never going to sit down and say, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Michael McDowell, those are guys making the playoffs. Again, not really surprising they did make it. They're always on the edge of making it in. They're about 20th in points, so a few good races, go get a win, something like that. Ricky Stenhouse didn't do bad in points, neither did Michael McDowell, so them winning wasn't really shocking in 2023. So I have Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, and Alex Bowman as the drivers making the playoffs that did not in 2023. We go to the Championship 4 in Phoenix. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Joe Logano, and William Byron. Reasons for that. Kyle Larson, I think, is going to get better with the next-gen cars as we go along. Of course, 2022, he didn't do as well. 2023, he managed to get, I believe, 3 wins plus the All-Star win. So, got more wins. Or did he get 4 wins? What did he get? He had Martinsville. Thumbs up. Cool. What the hell? I didn't know I could do that. Thumbs up. So Martinsville. He won Darlington, Kansas. He had to have won some other track. Richmond. I was trying to think of diecast cars I bought for my mom. I get her all the Kyle Larson ones. That's her favorite driver. So, I'm trying to think. Yes, the Richmond one, because she got the 124 for Christmas of that. So, Martinsville, Richmond, Darlington, Kansas. Or Las Vegas, not Kansas. And then North Wilkesboro All-Star. So, he got 4 regular season wins in the All-Star race, so I think he'll just continue to improve. Denny Hamlin got close in 2023 to making the Championship 4. I think we're getting close to it being like the last chance for Denny Hamlin to get a championship, but I think that he does make the Championship 4. Joey Logano, Championship 4. It's an even number year. He's got to make it. And William Byron, I think that he continues to improve and, build on what he had in 2023. Good amount of wins. I think getting some wins that aren't just lucky wins, as people may say. Again, you win, but I think that getting some of those race wins that aren't just being there on strategy in the last 5 laps or winning a rain race in Atlanta, I think that William Byron can still be similar to what he had in 2023. Champion, I'm going to go Kyle Larson. I predict Kyle Larson to win the championship last year. Pretty much picking to win the championship every year. I think that there's no reason that he couldn't go on and win the championship. So, that's my prediction. Kyle Larson wins the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series Championship. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below what you think for this season. And we'll see you guys in the next one.